Welcome everybody to another Wednesday night lecture from Lashem. This lecture is Le'ilui Nishmat, my grandmother, Ziva Bat Efer Tohar. Go ahead, you can sit. And Lahatzlachat, everybody who's donating to the Rav, Yisachar and Zevulun. May Hashem bless them with a multitude of bracha, Hatzlacha, Parnasa, Refuah, Zivugim Agunim. And may they only see Nachat in their lives. Tonight, hopefully, we're going to speak about not only the laws of Pesach, but the meaning behind Pesach itself. I know that many of us over here, especially Bukharians, we're very special people. We take Pesach very seriously. Even the non-religious ones, they tried their best to do Haggalah, kasher the kitchen. Some of them even get a whole new set of appliances. You know, most people, in Israel, around the world, one set of appliances. They don't have enough, they can't afford two kinds of silverware. Most people use the same pots and pans. Baruch Hashem, Hashem blessed our people, our Aida. We're very stringent on Chota Pesach. In fact, the Bukharian people are very close to the Ashkenazim, by the way, in our stringency in Pesach. For example, back in Samarkand, Bukhara, many of the Bukharians didn't eat kitniot. They didn't eat hummus. They didn't, if you see the old pictures, what do they have on their table? Matzah, a tomato, eggs, a cucumber, and an egg. And some maror, that's it, that's all they have. Today, Baruch Hashem, they have salatim, malatim, akol. Bakol, mikol, kol. But I want to ask you guys a question. Rhetorical question. What is Pesach? If I would ask any person over here, what is Pesach? What would anybody here answer? The first thing popping up. We come out of Egypt.
Freedom.
Freedom. We become a people.
Spiritual thing.
That's not Pesach. Pesach is not freedom. Pesach is not the freedom of the Jewish people. And I'll prove to you. Rabotai, in the Holocaust, in the Shoah, there were Jews that used to sacrifice their lives in Auschwitz to get a small piece of matzah. A small piece of matzah. You know what they would do to them if they were caught? The gas chambers would be the nicest thing. In the Spanish Inquisition, when King Ferdinand and the Queen Isabella, when they forced the Jews to go into exile from one of the greatest ages of the Jewish people, for the Sephardi Jewish people, in the year 1492 on Tisha B'Av, and they said any Jew who doesn't convert to Christianity must be sent into exile. Now we think exile is not such a big deal. You go from one country to another country. Do you know what it is to go to another country?
Yeah.
You don't know their language. You don't know their traditions. You don't know their people.
Law.
You don't know their laws.
Culture.
To start all over a new life? The Jews went from Spain to Portugal. After a year, the King Emmanuel of Portugal did the same exact edict. You know what he did? He was so afraid the Jews wouldn't convert and leave again. He said any Jew who wants to leave the shores of Portugal, it was worse than the Spanish Inquisition, you have to pass through a narrow gate. And between these narrow gates, and on both sides, were two soldiers. And he would ask the Jew, before he left the gates of Portugal, will you convert and accept upon yourself the cross? If he would say no, he would kill him on the spot. Because King Emmanuel knew that the Jews made the commerce of the country. The Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, you know what he said when the King Ferdinand kicked the Jews out of Spain and King Emmanuel kicked the Jews out of Portugal? You know what he said? He said they're stupid. Why would they kick out their best asset? And he opened the gates of the Ottoman Empire to the Jews. Not many Jews made it over there. But you know what? There were some Jews that they said, we're going to say that we accept upon ourselves the cross on the outside. We're going to act as Christians on the outside. But we're gonna be Jews on the inside. Till today, you know what they find in Spain? Bunkers, deep under the ground. Bunkers. Shuls, Sefer Torahs, Chanukias. Under the ground. They used to build themselves Batei Midrashot. They used to do Brit Milahs over there. These Jews were called Moranos or Conversos. And these Jews, used to sacrifice themselves to keep Pesach. Now I want to ask you guys a question. If Pesach is all about the freedom of the Jewish people, why are we celebrating it today? We're in exile, I'm sorry to tell you this. From one exile to another exile, we're not free people. The Jewish people haven't been free for 1,948 years. From one king, we went from another. Okay, we don't serve Paro today. So we serve the President of the United States. Or in Israel, they serve the Erev Rav, which is even worse than Paro. The Shilton in Eretz Yisrael is Erev Rav. We serve the King of Spain, we serve the Sultan, we serve Salah ad-Din, we serve the King, the Charlemagne, the Emperor. We are not free people. Why are we celebrating Pesach? Anyone who thinks Pesach is a celebration of our freedom, they're wrong.
Remember.
Pesach is a celebration of the freedom of our souls. Pesach is the celebration of the freedom of our neshama. What do we say in the Haggadah? Even kulanu chachamim, even if we were all wise men. Kulanu nevonim. We're all, you know what navon means? Navon means conceptual person. A person that could derive something from something. It's higher than chokhmah. Afilu kulanu yodim et Torah. Even if everybody here is a walking Rav Ovadia Yosef. If we wouldn't have left Egypt, adayin, still, we, our children, our grandchildren, all the generations would have been the slaves to Paro. Not the physical slaves. Paro is gone. We would have been spiritually enslaved. When the Jews left Egypt, when they were standing on the banks of the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, and they saw the Egyptians running after them, there were 600 chariots. The Jews were numbering over 3 million. Just the men were 600,000. What did they say to Moshe? Why did you take us out of Egypt to die in the desert? They were still enslaved in their souls. They were still enslaved. Pesach, after 2,000 years, after 3,000 years, we're celebrating the freedom of our souls, and I'm going to connect it beautifully. Be'ezrato Yitbarach. Rabotai, what's the main component of Pesach? You know, there's a halacha that says, you know, the women on Pesach night, the Seder, you know, there's a lot to do, they're cooking, it's Yom Tov, you know. But there's one part in the Seder, that the woman must come out of the kitchen, sit on the table, and say it with the men.
Halachmania.
Definitely not halachmania. First of all, we don't say halachmania, we say helachmania, like the Ben Ish Hai. Okay, we say helachmania. The people that are migdakdikim, they say helachmania 3 times.
Yeah.
Now, what part of the Haggadah do the women must come out of the kitchen and sit with the men and say at least this? Even they don't know Hebrew, they don't know English, they don't understand anything. They don't know anything in their lives. What part do they have to say? Rabban Gamliel says, Kol mi shelo amar shlosha devarim elu b'Pesach lo yetza yedei chovato. Anyone who didn't say these 3 words on Pesach didn't fulfill his commandment. What is this commandment? Everybody has to say, don't say this on Pesach, you didn't fulfill your commandment. Pesach matzah umaror. I know, all these years, I had an amazing question. A bomb question. What's the question? Tell me guys, what's the main mitzvah of Pesach? What's the main mitzvah? What does the Torah say?
To say it to your child.
What do we have to eat on Pesach?
Matzah and wine.
We have to eat matzah. Wine is a rabbinical mitzvah. Wine, shh, Rabotai. Wine is a rabbinical mitzvah. It's rabbinical. Did you guys know that? The halacha is the 4 cups of wine, even though it's so stringent, yes, it's a rabbinical. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah you have to drink 4 cups of wine. We have a mitzvah in Yom Tov to drink wine and eat meat, yes. But the 4 cups of wine, specifically in that order, is all rabbinical. It's a derabanan. While we're talking about the 4 cups of wine, let's say some halachot about the 4 cups of wine. We come home that night. The Seder plate is all ready. The halacha is the Seder plate has to be ready right away. Why? We don't want the kids to fall asleep. No kids. We don't want you to fall asleep. So the Seder has to be ready. Once you come home, has to be ready. Everything has to be ready. Why? You don't want the kids to fall asleep because the whole point is the kids should ask questions. Why do we do all these crazy minhagim? We cover the plate. We put it at the end of the table. We pick up the matzah. We give the kids the hayda afikoman. We want the kids to ask questions, right? But when we start the Seder, we say first thing, what do we say? How do we start off the day? Kiddush, right? We start off the day Kiddush. Kiddush, by the way, is not a rabbinical mitzvah. It is a deoraita. It's a biblical mitzvah. Kiddush is the most important thing. Just like Kiddush of Shabbat is deoraita, so is Kiddush of Pesach deoraita. That means not only are men obligated, also women are obligated in Kiddush. When you say Kiddush, do you say it standing up or sitting down?
Standing up.
Kiddush of the night, we always say standing up. After we say the Kiddush of the night, we sit down. And we all lean to the right or to the left?
Left.
We all lean to the left. Let's say a guy is a righty and a lefty. Does he lean to the right or to the left?
Doesn't matter, it's the same thing.
Left.
No?
He has to lean to the left, like every other person.
the
But there's a difference. Let's say he leaned to the right because it's his. He's used to doing the opposite of everyone.
Really?
It's okay. Now let's say a guy, Chas v'Shalom, he doesn't have a left hand. He does everything with the right hand. If he didn't lean,
It's okay.
it's okay. There are people like that, Bar Minan, they lost a hand. If they don't lean, they fulfill their obligation, or Ovadia writes in the Chazon Ovadia, L'chot Pesach.
How long are you supposed to leave?
Now, you have to drink the whole. Now, how much do you have to drink? Good question. So the thing is, there's a machloket in the Gemara and there's a machloket in the Shulchan Aruch. Stam veyesh. If you have a big cup, like a goblet, lechatchila, you have to finish the whole thing, or at least most of it. So that's why in Pesach, since you have to drink 4 cups, and preferably has to be alcoholic beverage, you know, the best thing to drink, Rabotai, is yain lo mevushal. Not cooked wine, alcoholic. What I suggest is to get the hashgacha of Ora Ganuz. There's a wine called Ora Ganuz, it's Badatz. Badatz Bet Yosef, Rav Ovadia. Why? There are some wines for Ashkenazim is Hagefen, for Sfaradim it's Shakol. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
Can you mix it?
What?
Can you mix it with juice for the kids?
Yes, we're gonna get to that in a second. There are some wines that for Ashkenazim it's Hagefen. That means they can say Hagefen on this cup of wine. For Sfaradim it would be Shakol Niya Bidvaro. Why? The halacha is for Sfaradim we're very stringent about wine. The wine has to contain more wine than water. If it contains even the smallest iota of water more than wine, even by a smallest percentage, we say sha'akol. It's red wine. We say sha'akol on that.
Most of all wines that are packaged today.
Yes.
What's the percentage?
Well, I can't vouch for that, but I can tell you one thing. That many rabbis had checked out the Kedem facilities, and Kedem is known to be a very good company, even for Sfaradim. But today, to be 100% sure, there is a wine called Ora Ganuz. That's the company name, Ora Ganuz. It has badatz on it. Beit Din Tzedek Sfaradi Ashgacha, to say Hagefen on it. But let's say you're not a person who could drink wine like the gentleman in the back just asked. Can I mix it with juice or can I even drink grape juice? Rav Ovadia says grape juice is 100% as long as it's mostly juice than water. As long as it's mostly juice than water, even a Sfaradi could say Hagefen on that. Now, preferably speaking, Kedem grape juice is almost 100% juice. So you could say Hagefen on that without even worrying a bit. But you should know one thing: the best mitzvah to do is to drink yain. Now, what's better, red wine or white wine?
Red wine.
Red wine, of course. But let's say you have a white wine that's more expensive than the red wine, and the white wine is not so white. Let's call it's in the middle somewhere, in the middle of the spectrum. So in that case, you should drink the white wine that's more expensive than the red wine. Now, do women have to lean when they drink the 4 cups?
Yes.
The halacha is, preferably, women should lean today. Why? Even though the Gemara says women don't have to lean. Why? Unless she's a isha mechubedet. She's an important woman. The Shulchan Aruch says, the halacha, Achronim say, that today every woman is a special woman. Why? Why? Think about it logically, guys. Back in the day, how many women would a man marry?
Couple.
At least a couple, right? He would have one in China when he would go on a business trip, one in Japan, one in Hong Kong, and one in America. Yeah, and one of the weekends too.
There's only 2.
Huh? For Onik Shabbat, huh?
So, I thought there was only 2 by halachot.
No. You could have, a king is allowed 18. A Jewish man is allowed as much as he wants. Chachamim say, we're going to give you advice. The Gemara says 4. Like Yaakov Avinu. We'll give you advice, only marry 4.
I heard it's only 2.
No, the Gemara says 4. I can show you inside. Afterwards, I'll show you inside.
So I could make another 2.
But we know that there is something called Cherem Rabbeinu Gershom. What's Cherem Rabbeinu Gershom? There was an enactment in the medieval times in Europe of a man called Rabbeinu Gershom, not a man. He was the Rosh says the Torah of Rabbeinu Gershom is like the Torah of Har Sinai. The Rosh says about him, and he made an edict, a Cherem, an excommunication. No man is allowed to marry more than 1 wife. Now the Rishonim had a fight between them. How come he said you're not allowed to marry more than 1 wife? What was his reasoning? So the Rashba said, that's a story that nobody knows if it's true, but some say that it is. The Rashba says the reason is because there were men who used to marry more than 1 wife, and then they used to get abusive to the other wife that they didn't like so much. They want to get rid of them. So to protect those women who used to get abused, he made an edict not to marry more than 1 wife. And there are other reasonings behind the cherem. That's one of the reasons of the Rashba.
To make a harem, you don't need like a group of rabbis?
There were. Rabbeinu Gershom was Rosh HaGolah. He was the head of all the rabbis of Europe. Rashi is the student of a student.
Wow.
Rashi is the student of Rabbeinu Yaakov Bar Yakar, who was the student of Rabbeinu Gershom. Rashi was he learned Torah from his mouth. So to go against Rabbeinu Gershom was very... Now, however, the Bet Yosef, the Shulchan Aruch says that his edict didn't pass the shores of Europe. That means Morocco, North Africa, Algeria, where the Jews lived over there. They didn't even care what he said. They were married. Now, even if you say that it did, Beit Yosef says, there is a certain time, let's call it expiration date to the excommunication. And that, he says, is the year 5000. And what year we're today? 5777. That's why, guys, if you get married, you're going to see in your Ketuvah, they add a line. Our Ketuvahs have an extra line. Ashkenazi Ketuvahs don't have that. What's that line? Huh? No, wait.
To add?
We add an extra line, not wife, extra line. What's that line? That the rabbi says, even though his excommunication is expired at the year 5000, but it's a good thing to do anyways. It's a good thing to do anyways, and therefore we make the chatan, the groom, under the chuppah swear that he'll never marry another wife on his wife.
I never remember that.
You don't remember it because maybe he didn't explain it to you. But if you remember it, under the chuppah, he shook your hands. Did he shake your hands under the chuppah?
Yes.
If he shook your hands, that's what he was doing. Okay, so you're stuck anyways. Now.
But that's while you're married, right?
What?
I said that's while you're married, right?
Yes,
If
of
God
course.
forbid if he gets divorced, so he could be married.
Of course he can get married. He's a single guy. He must get remarried.
I'm just saying no.
He must get remarried. The halacha is, chas v'shalom. I don't want to get in. We're not talking about halachot of Even HaEzer right now. We're just trying to prove why women are special today. Why every woman is considered chashuva. The reason every woman is considered chashuva was back in the day, many men would marry many women, so every woman, it's not so chashuv, This, and this. But today, you only have one soulmate. Today, you only have one lock to the key. Today, everybody has one. So the Chachamim said, this one, you have to make sure that she's special to you. This one, you have to make sure she's not only special, she's chashuv. What's chashuv? Chashuv is important. When something is important for you, how do you react to it? You take care of it. So therefore, Chachamim said, every woman today must lean. Why? Every woman is important. And if you don't remember, we're going to make you remember. She better lean. You know, that's the way the Chachamim are reminding you on Pesach that your wife is important to you. Not only that, who's all doing all the cooking and cleaning and this and that? What does the man do? Takes a haircut, buys a new suit. Shalom al Yisrael. The woman slaves away at the kitchen. Okay, maybe does a little shopping. But who does? So Chachamim said she does all the work. Better appreciate it. Better appreciate it. Now, so if a woman must lean, but there's a difference between a man and a woman. What's the difference? If the woman forgot to lean, if she forgot to lean, it's okay. Ze beseder. You understand? Don't make her drink the cup of wine again. If the man forgot to lean, what does he have to do?
Do it again.
He has to do it again. He has to do it again. Now let's say he forgot to lean and he only remembered by the second cup. What does he do now? He has to drink the second cup.
Double cup.
How do you do it? Should you put 2 amounts, let's say 6 ounces in 1 cup and drinking in 1 shot?
No.
You're drinking 2 amounts. What's the problem with that?
No, you take 2.
What do you do in this case?
Separate obviously. You do kavanot.
Kavanot.
No, you do kavanot.
I'm talking about the simple people right now. So you lean, you drink the second cup first, right? And then you wait a small amount of time, the amount of time it takes to drink a revi'it, about 30 seconds, and then you lean again and you drink. You lean again and you drink. That's good enough. Okay? So leaning is very important. Now, what I suggest, Rabbi Ovadia writes in Chazon Ovadia, that you should appoint somebody in the house to remind everybody to lean. Now, what is leaning? The Gemara says leaning is not leaning forward. Leaning doesn't mean leaning like this. You can't lean like, some people they lean like this on their knees. The halakha is you're not allowed to lean like that. Why? That looks like an avel. It looks like you're mourning. If you're leaning on your knee, it looks like you're mourning. What are you supposed to do? Lean to the side. Try to lean on the chair itself to the side, or lean on a friend. And even more than that, if a person wants to lean the whole Haggadah, hariza meshubach. It's even a bigger mitzvah to lean the whole Haggadah. But Chachamim said we're not going to make you crazy. We're only going to make you lean the 4 kosot and the matzah. Now, that's for the cups of wine. Continuing what we were saying before. So that's for the halachot of the kiddush, for arba kosot. Now, what is Pesach? We said Pesach, matzah, umaror. How come we asked the question that Pesach is not considered talking about Yetziat Mitzrayim? How come it's enough to say Pesach, matzah, umaror? I would say, you know what you should really say? Not Pesach, matzah, umaror. Rabban Gamliel should have said, whoever didn't eat a kazait of matzah on Pesach, lo yitzai yedei chovato. Isn't that a more logical thing to say? Because what does the Torah say? What do you have to eat on Pesach? Matzah. What does that mean? If I ate matzah on the first night of Pesach and I didn't eat for the next 6 days, I did my mitzvah. You're only obligated to eat matzah that night, by the way. You're not obligated, for the people who live outside of Israel, 2 nights, yes. I'm talking about the Dina de Oraita from the Torah. Pretend you're living right now in Eretz Yisrael. The only mitzvah you have in the Torah is to eat matzah 1 day. That means if I ate matzah during Chol HaMoed, I didn't really do a mitzvah. I didn't do a mitzvah. Why? The only mitzvah is to eat that night. And how much you have to eat? A kazayit. Midoraita, you have to eat a kazayit. Midoraita. So how come Rabban Gamliel didn't say that? Isn't that an amazing question?
Yes.
He should have said, whoever didn't eat a kazayit of matzah on Pesach didn't fulfill his obligation. But he said, no. You have to say Pesach, matzah, umaror. What's the reason?
People ask questions.
We're gonna say. We already passed the question stage. It's already at the end of the Haggadah we're saying this. The answer, Bezrat Torah Yitbarach, we said that the coming out of Mitzrayim is not a physical freedom. If it was a physical freedom, we shouldn't have celebrated Pesach when we were in Auschwitz. We shouldn't have celebrated Pesach when we were in the Spanish Inquisition. We shouldn't have celebrated Pesach when we were in Egypt, the second time with the Rambam. But yet we celebrated Pesach. We said Pesach is a celebration of the freedom of our souls. How do we do that? How do we celebrate the freedom of our soul on Pesach? By saying 3 things. Pesach, matzah, umaror. What does that mean? A person has in his soul 3 inner parts and two outer parts. They're called nefesh, ruach, unishama. This nefesh, ruach, unishama is inside of you. The chaya and yechida is the parts of your soul that are surrounding you. Your makif, we call it. This nefesh, ruach, unishama get a spiritual awakening by doing three things on Pesach.
Saying those like.
By saying these three words. The nefesh, which is the smallest part of our soul, the one we're born with, the one that's deep inside the klipa, that's deep inside the unclean forces. The nefesh gets a revelation when we eat and when we say the word maror. Why maror? What's special about the maror? Is maror, Rabotai, a biblical mitzvah or a rabbinical mitzvah? It's rabbinical. Of course. The only biblical mitzvah is to eat the maror and the matzah with the korban pesach. Al matzot u'merorim yecholuhu. But to eat maror by itself, it's a takana d'Rabbanan. It's a kind of a what we did. The maror, the meaning of the word maror is what?
Bitter.
Mar. Bitter. The nefesh of a person, that's what we all have inside of here right now. The nefesh, that's what we were born with, could only get clean through bitterness. To clean your nefesh, you have to go through suffering. That's the meaning of the maror. How does a person get parnasa? What does the Gemara say? To get parnasa, it's as tough as splitting the sea, right? Rav Nachman in Breslov says you want parnasa, on Pesach eat a lot of maror. Just the way the maror is bitter, and your parnasa to attain it is bitter, if you want to have parnasa for the rest of the year, Rav Nachman says you have to eat maror. A lot of maror.
Kazait minimum, right?
Kazait is a minimum, yeah. 28 grams. According to the Rambam, 18. But we follow the stricter opinions, 28 grams. The maror signifies the bitterness of our nefesh. To take the nefesh out of the klipa, out of the unclean forces, you need to eat maror. But the maror itself, in Aramaic, how do we call it? What's the best kind of maror, the Gemara says? What do we call it? Chasa. Chasa is Aramaic for maror. Chasa is lettuce. What is the meaning of the word chasa in Aramaic? Chasa in Aramaic is to wash yourself. When you're eating the maror, you have to have kavanah that I'm washing my nefesh. You think what you're doing on Pesach, I'm just doing I'm eating some delicious, nice food, you know? There was a famous story about a guy, a poor guy, Jewish. He was in shul, you know, there is a minhag on Pesach. Even the stingiest guy on Pesach, he takes guests into his house. Even the stingiest guy. So there was this poor guy who had nowhere to go on Pesach. He said to himself, listen, why am I an idiot? Spending money, so much money. I don't have money, I have to pay my rent. So he said to his wife, you go to your parents. I'm gonna stay in shul. I'm gonna sit till everyone leaves, and I'm gonna wait till somebody invites me. So he was sitting in the shul, and he waited till everybody left. Suddenly one guy taps on his shoulder and says, listen, you have nowhere to go for Pesach? He said, no, I don't have nowhere to go, I'm ani, misken, bechore. He says, come to my house. He says, oh, Baruch Hashem, yom yom. Eze yofi, eze yafeh. He goes to the guy's house. Oh, eze seder, silver, gold, everybody's dressed, everybody's eating, kaif, he's with the family. The guy said, this is gonna be my minhag. I just instituted a new minhag for all my generations. On Pesach, we're gonna act like aniyim and get invited to people's house. This guy was a schnorrer. You know what a schnorrer is? He goes in shuls in the morning, you know. So one day he meets his friend, a non-Jew, a Gentile, and he tells him, and he's happy, the Jew is happy. Why? It was close to Pesach. And the non-Jew tells him, and the non-Jew is also not so, he's also down on his luck. He says, why are you so happy? He says, oh, you don't know. Now is the Chag of the Jews, is the holiday of the Jews called Pesach. They have to invite you to their house. So I'm so excited to be invited to somebody's house. I'm so happy. Even though I'm poor, I'm happy. So the goy says, listen, you want to hook me up with a house? There's no problem. Go to the store, buy a hat, buy a suit, black and white, of course. Come to the shul and somebody's going to invite you. Grow your pelot, he said. Don't forget to grow your pelot. He says, okay. Comes to the shul. For real, that's what happened. Some Jew walks up to the goy and he says to him, you want to come to my house for Pesach? He says, yeah, of course. And another guy invites the Jew, the poor Jew. And he winks at him and says, listen, right now you're going to have the best night of your life. The Seder night is the one night every Jew waits for the whole year. This goes to this house, this goes to this house. The Jew, how you say in Bukhari, kaifano. He had so much fun. Why? They had the best kind of vodka for Pesach. Everything was the best. He comes the next morning to shul, sameach v'tov lev. Who does he meet on the way to shul? His friend, the goy. The goy takes the Jew by the neck and says, you son of a gun, you set me up. You Jews always set us up. I'm gonna kill you. What happened? He says, I went to the guy's house. Nothing was on the table. One cucumber, one pomidor, and lots of wine. Lots of wine and some kind of white thing. A white thing. I said, Chai, maybe, soon they're gonna take out the food. These Jews, you know how much they read? They read and they read and they read. They don't stop reading, for the love of God. My stomach, my ishkam was hurting.
He didn't warn them.
And I didn't know that you're not allowed to eat before Kiddush. So I asked the Jewish guy for some water. And everybody in the house looked at me like I'm crazy. I was so scared, I didn't say a word for the next of the whole Seder. Hi, I'm sitting over there. Finally, they take out a piece of small potato, and guess what? You're not allowed to even eat. You're not allowed to even eat the whole thing. You have to eat a small, so you're not allowed to say borei nefashot, some weird blessing. And not only that, you have to dip it in salt water. Who eats potatoes with salt water? He's going crazy. And not only that, after that, finally they finish the Haggadah, and guess what? They gotta get you drunk before. You have to drink wine and wine and wine, and you can't even drink like a normal person. You have to lean like some crazy guy. I never leaned in my life. What is this? What do you guys Jews do? Finally, we get to the matzah. I'm thinking they're coming out with some pita, lachmaniyah. They come out with some crackers, and you're not allowed to even eat it with the salads there. Like there was salads to eat with to begin with. Finally, they said you're allowed to eat this white stuff on the table. I'm thinking this white stuff is some special Jewish food. I take it, I put it on and I take not a little bit. Everybody was taking a little bit. So why are you taking so little? I took the whole spoon, the whole plate, and we said the blessing. I put it in my mouth, and my mouth was on fire. It was chrein, not regular chrein. It was the white one, the one that burns you. My mouth burned so hard. I picked up the whole table, I threw it to the side, and I ran out of the house. So the Jewish guy looks at us and says, you crazy. You're not supposed to go to an Ashkenazi's house for Pesach. You have to go to a Sephardi's house for Pesach. And that's how the story goes. So Pesach is the one night we wait for. If you're a Sephardi, if you're for Ashkenazi, I feel bad for you. But when we get to like we were saying, the maror, we eat chasa. The Gemara says to eat chasa. What's chasa? Lettuce. Why? The Mekubalim explain, chasa is milashon sach. What's sach? To wash your nefesh. Now, what do we dip the maror inside?
Salt water.
That's the karpas. The maror we dip into charoset.
The clean and the sweet stuff.
The sweet, some people make it a bit bitter. It's called charoset, is the kind of a mixture we make with apples, nuts, wine. Some people put bananas in there to make it a little sweet. Now, small halacha on the side. Some people think, oh, I'm not losing you guys over here. When we take the maror and we put it in the charoset, they take the maror, they're so hungry by that point, they take it and they put half of the charoset in the maror. I've seen some people, no joke, they take the whole plate of the charoset, they're hungry, listen, kav zechut. They put all the charoset on the maror it's like a pre-sandwich to the sandwich. Soon they're gonna eat the sandwich, this is the pre-sandwich. And they eat it with such kaif ala chirat maror. They're making a safek bracha levatala. Why? The Gemara says in Masechet Pesachim, if a person takes the matzah and he swallows it without chewing it, did he fulfill his mitzvah? Yes. But if a person swallowed the maror without tasting it, did he fulfill his mitzvah? No. Because the mitzvah of the maror is to have the taste in your mouth. You see, when a person suffers in life, he has to know that he's suffering. He's not allowed to complain to Hashem. Rav Aharon Rata, the Baal Shomer Emunim, I'm not talking about the Shomer Emunim HaKadmon. Talking about Rav Aharon Rata's Shomer Emunim. A book full of Yirat Shamayim says, any person who has suffering in life, you know what he should say when he suffers?
Thank God.
No. Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will that this suffering should take away my Gehenna. If he says that, by the time he gets to Gan Eden over there, to Olam Haba, he's not going to have any Gehenna. Yes, you're supposed to say it.
But if you don't say
Why?
it, no?
It depends. If when you have suffering in life, you're complaining to Hashem, you're looking down on your luck, then it's not kaparat avonot. But if when you have the suffering, the yisurim, you admit it, and you wish at that moment that it should be a kapara, a recertification, God takes away your gehenom. You think Hashem sends you suffering because He has nothing better to do? Hashem sends you suffering in this world so you don't go to Gehenom. What does the Gemara say? Hashem asked Avraham Avinu, you want your children to go to Gehenom or to exile or to Galut? What did Avraham Avinu say? Galut. Don't let them see the face of Gehenom. But what happened when the Jews were in Galut? What did they do 24/7? They were complaining. You have to know that you're in Galut, and you have to admit it, and you have to say to Hashem, may my Gehenom be mitkaper. That's what Rav Aharon Rata says. It's not my words. It's the Baal Shomer Emunim.
He promised to Abraham, though.
You know? He did promise. And what does Avraham Avinu do on the gates of Gehenom? What does he do? He checks a person's Brit Milah. If his Brit Milah is clean, even if he has Averot like Dor Enosh, but his Brit Milah is clean, he takes him out of Gehenom. Why? Because what was the mitzvah that God gave Avraham? Brit Milah. So what's the one condition Avraham takes a person out of Gehenom? If the Brit Milah is clean. If the Brit Milah is not clean, then you have to mess with Yitzchak. And Yitzchak is Gevurah. I'm not so sure he takes people out of Gehenom. You know? Now, so the maror, the halacha is when you dip it inside the charoset, you're supposed to dip it. You're not supposed to scoop it. There's no scooping. You dip it, and after you dip it, even if there's some charoset on it, you know what you should do? You have to shake it off. Why? The taste of the maror has to be in your mouth. The taste of the maror must be in your mouth.
Even not dip anything, just the maror itself.
You did your mitzvah. But, I'm going to tell you a secret. According to Kabbalah, according to the Mekubalim, why do we dip the charoset? Why do we dip the maror, that leaf, the romaine lettuce, into the charoset, that mixture? The Mekubalim say that the whole Pesach were connected to Rachel Imenu. The whole Pesach. Leah Imenu is put to the side. She's hidden. Why? Why? When did Yaakov Avinu marry Leah? In the night. And in the morning he woke up. What does the Torah say? V'nei b'boker v'nei Leah. Suddenly he got angry, he got furious. That means when is there a zivug? When is there a connection to Leah Imenu? When? At night. But on Pesach, is there night? There is no night. The Zohar Kadosh says the whole Pesach is morning. Leil shimurim hu la'Hashem. Now let's go from maror to the second thing we have to say on Pesach.
That's why we say Halal at night.
What? What did you say?
We say Halal with the bracha at night.
Why do we say challah at night?
That's what I'm saying, because it's considered...
Oh, halal, exactly. Very good. Very good, exactly. Oh, you already mentioned it. Let's say a small halacha for the women to hear, actually. The women are here, they should at least listen to something very important. On the night of Pesach, we say halal with a beracha. Women that are home also have to say it.
Can they hear it? That's all that counts.
They could also hear it if they're hearing it and they have kavanat v'yitzei de chovah. But the halacha is most men are at home right? And they're coming home from shul. They're not going to say Hallel again for their wives, obviously. How are you going to say Hallel again for your wife? No, you already say the Chovah. You understand? The women have to open up the Siddur, open up to Hallel, and say it with a bracha. Now, we're going to say Hallel again. When are we going to say Hallel again? After Birkat Hamazon, correct? We're going to drink the 4th cup of wine with a Hallel, correct? And we're going to lean, obviously.
Yeah, that's the one.
But that Hallel, we say with or without a bracha? Without a bracha, why? When you're going to say the Hallel in shul, you have to have kavanah for the Hallel in the Seder night.
But if you did not,
Understand?
but if you did not,
If you didn't have kavanah, safek brachot la'akel, obviously you're not going to say another bracha. Okay? Safek brachot la'akel. Now, Rabotai. Matzah. What's the second thing we have to say the night of the Seder? Matzah, Pesach, matzah umaro, matzah. Shut the matzah. I'm going to tell you guys a secret right now. One of the greatest secrets of the Ariya Kadosh. Rabotai, there is a war going on in heaven right now. There is a milchama gdola, milchemet Hashem. There's a war going on right now in Shamayim. I'm not talking about Star Wars. I'm not talking about those movies that you guys watch. I'm talking about a spiritual war that is fought with the angels. On one side, you have the army of Hashem, Malach Memtet, Sarapanim, Malach Sandal, Malach Akatrikel, Malach, all the Malachim, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael. And they're fighting a huge war against the Samech Mem, his wife, all the names, Azav, Azael, Azazel also, all the bad angels, a huge war. On the night of Pesach, the war is decided. Who's going to win the war? Do you know what the word matzah means? Matzah in Hebrew means a war. Matzah umeriva. Matzah comes from the word to fight. Matzah is a fight. And I'm going to show you right now how it works. What is the exact counterpart of matzah? Chametz. Right? Chametz. Rabotai, don't forget to sell your chametz. Right? Chametz, sha'avar alaf pisho, asur. Right? If you didn't sell your chametz, and you just remembered after Pesach, all your chametz you got to throw to the garbage. There was a story that happened in Yerushalayim, where a father and a son owned a makolet. Makolet is a, supermarket. And the father thought that the son was going to sell the chametz, and the son thought that the father was going to sell the chametz. Pesach finishes, and the father comes to the store, and he's like, oh, by the way, did you sell the chametz? Which rabbi did you sell? I didn't sell. I thought you were going to. They go to the rabbi. Rabbi says, I'm sorry. The whole supermarket's got to go on fire. And you know what? They did it. They burned the whole makolet on fire. They sent everything to Avadon. And Hashem blessed them the next year. They didn't open up one supermarket. They were able to open up 2 supermarkets. Wasserman's and across the street. So Rabotai, matzah comes from the word to fight. The exact counterpart of matzah is chametz. What's the difference between matzah and chametz? Everybody here is going to say, matzah is when it rises, chametz is when it rises, matzah is when it's pachach.
Pour bread.
Yes, you're right, but I'm not talking about that. Matzah and chametz, let's spell it out. Matzah is mem, tzadik, hey. Let's spell chametz. Chet, mem, tzadik. Both matzah and chametz have 2 same letters. Which ones? Mem and tzadik. What's the only difference between them? The chet and the hey. How do I write a chet? A chet is basically a hey, just I connect the leg with the roof with a small piece of ink. A small piece of ink. That means, what's the whole difference between the chametz and matzah? What decides the whole war? A drop of ink. A drop of ink. Chametz is a hay, just with a little extra ink. Matzah is the chet without the dat over there. It's a hey. But the rest of the letters are the same. They're both the same exact thing. What does that mean? Rabotai, inside of you have a Yetzer Hara and a Yetzer HaTov. And that night of Pesach, when we fight against the Satan, when it's Leil Shimuri Mula Hashem, Hashem opens up the three books, the book of life, the book of death, and the book of the Benonim, Tzadikim, Rishaim, and Benonim. You think only Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment? Also Pesach is the day of judgment. He opens up the three books and he wants to know, which one of the four sons are you? Are you the Chacham? Are you the Rasha? Are you the Tam? Or are you the Sheino Yodea Lish'ol? If you're the Rasha, what does the Rasha say? Choeta Haggadah, Shmagada. Let's get to the Shulchan Orech already. Bring up the Korban and all the foods and this. You know what Hashem does? He takes your matzah and he makes it into chametz.
His matzah.
Yes. You think you're eating matzah, but you're eating chametz. And if on the night of Pesach you're making jangonozi with everybody and everything is a fight, and you're fighting with everyone and you're making everybody marumavit, Hashem takes your matzah and he turns it into chametz. Do you know in the word matzah, that little ink that was supposed to be a chet that became a hey, it doesn't go to waste. Do you know where it goes to? What do we say in Shema Yisrael? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Do you know why we have to finish the Afikoman by midnight? When do we say Kriyat Shema L'mitah? When is the best time to say it? At midnight. Right at midnight is the best time to say Kriyat Shema L'mitah.
Jewish midnight.
That means you have to finish the whole Seder. And when you finish the Seder, you don't finish your mitzvot at that time. What do you have to say at that moment? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. What's Echad? One. What's the last letter of Echad? A Dalet. What's a Dalet? It's two palki, right?
Yeah.
Two sticks.
Right.
If I take off the end of the Dalet, what letter does it turn into?
Hey.
A Reish.
I mean, Reish.
If I make it into a Reish, Chas Shalom, what word comes out? Acher. It's like you're saying, Shema Yisrael, God forbid, your God is a different God. But if I make the palki a little longer, it turns into Echad, God is one. What's the difference between saying God is Hashem or God Chas Shalom is something else? A small piece of ink. You know where that small piece of ink comes from? That's supposed to be chametz that turned into matzah. It doesn't go to waste. It goes into the acher and makes it into echad. That's the meaning of Pesach. The fight between you and the Satan, that's what the matzah is. What's going to happen to the small piece of ink? Are you going to be chametz or matzah? And I'm going to tell you something right now crazy. All of your Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur depends on that night. You want to have a good Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you better make sure you eat matzah that night. What does that mean? Everybody here knows Adam HaRishon, right?
Yes.
Jonesdale. What did he do already? Chai? Let's say it was an apple. It wasn't. It was a Chinese apple. It was a pomegranate. He ate from the forbidden fruit. He ate. God said, you ate? One mitzvah I gave you. One. For the love of God. One mitzvah. You didn't listen? You have to do? You and your descendants are going to die. All you guys are going to die. You were supposed to be Mashiach. You were supposed to be everything. You were supposed to be my chosen one. Adam, I made you with my own hands. Kibiyachol. What did Adam HaRishon do after that?
130 days. Separated from himself.
130 days or 130 years?
Years.
Adam HaRishon, Halato Shel Olam, sat in the river Gihon till his neck for 130 years. I never heard of any person in the whole Torah that did Teshuva like Adam HaRishon. Did God listen to his Teshuva? Not even a bit. Not even a bit. I'm going to explain to you why. Let's look at a different man. How many sons Yaakov had? 12. Who was the Bechor? Reuven. Jones there.
Move the beds.
All he did was take one bed from here, and he put the bed over here. What does the Torah say about him? It's like he was with his own father's wife. Wow. You know what Reuven did? Teshuva, you know what? The Gemara says, Kol yom av shel oto tzadik haya b'teshuva. His whole life he was in Teshuva. When the brothers were selling Yosef, you know what Reuven was doing? Teshuva. And what did Reuven say when they were going to throw Yosef, the Yesod, inside the pit? You know what he said? Don't kill him. Al techetu bayeled. Don't kill the boy, please. Don't touch him. And when they sold him, the Torah testifies that he was going to save his brother. And he comes to the pit and he sees the pit is empty. The Torah says, Vaikrad begadav, he ripped his clothing. And he said, Hayeled enenu, this boy is not here. Va'ani anani ba. Where am I going to go? How am I going to show my face to my father? Anyone did teshuvah like Reuven? The Ari says he wasn't inside the cheta of the brothers. He wasn't there. He was saved from the sin of the brothers. But you know what? What did Reuven lose by sinning with his father's wife? He lost
everything.
The Bechorah. Forget about everything. First of all, he lost the Bechorah. He wasn't the firstborn no more.
Kingship.
Well, who did that go to? The firstborn? Yosef. The boy he tried to save took his firstborn. And he still tried to save him. The kingship he was supposed to get, who did it go to? Yehuda. He's the one who sold him, by the way. And the kihuna he was supposed to get, who did it go to?
Levi.
And Levi was the one to say, let the dogs on Yosef. Could you imagine? What did he do already? All he did was switch the bed. He did teshuvah, he tried to save Yosef, he tried to be the best boy. Did Hashem accept his teshuvah? Not only didn't Hashem accept his teshuvah, on Yaakov Avinu's deathbed, he told Reuven in front of all the brothers, he embarrassed him. He says, you are like running water. You don't think before you act.
Anger.
You have your anger problem, exactly. He didn't accept his teshuvah. He lost everything. He lost everything.
No, but it's sin itself.
No, he didn't accept it. Finish. He messed up. That's it. Why? Adam, Reuven. Now let's do another thing. Bnei Yisrael in Egypt. How many years were we there in exile? 210 years. Why didn't the Jews get together in the Beit Midrash? Everybody together, say, Ana Hashem, Chatanu, Avinu, Pashanu. Please let us out of Egypt. Paro used to take the kids, the children, 150 boys in the morning, 150 boys in the evening, kill them, take the blood, and used to wash himself from his tzarad. You know what kind of galut that is? You know what kind of galut that is? You know, I heard a story in the Holocaust. There was this rabbi, today he's a rabbi. He was saying a story how he was saved. When he went to the lines into Auschwitz, where I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of Jews were burned to death. Hashem yinkom damam. When he went, he was 10 years old. Now, either in Auschwitz, either you worked or you died. They were told they were going to a labor camp. When they got there, they didn't just smell. From the sky was falling the ashes of the dead people. This happened 70, 80 years ago, guys. Now this boy, he was 10 years old. He was walking with his mother. And the father was a big guy. And they used to separate the boys and the girls. You know, it's so amazing. The Jews, the Reformers and everything, they didn't know boys, girls. Over there, everything was chtipti. Hashem said, you guys know the difference between a boy and a girl? You don't know what tzniut is? You don't know how to separate yourselves? I'm going to separate you guys in the death camps. And the mom was holding the boy tightly with her hand. She didn't let him go. Over there were Jews who used to work for the Nazis. Cops. And he told the mother in the ear, says, listen, let the boy go, they're going to kill him. He's 10 years old, he can't work over here. Save yourself. She said, I'm not letting my son go, I'm not letting him out of my sight. She held his hand even tighter. He says, listen, we're going to separate you right now. There was a doctor over there called Dr. Mengel. This Dr. Mengel was the head of the Department of Human Experimenting. You know what they used to do to the Jews? There was a halachic case in the Torah. It says the saris. You know what a saris is? Saris is a guy who can't have kids. Bar minan.
Impotent.
He's impotent, exactly. He's not allowed to get married to a regular Jewish girl. To a regular kosher Jew, can't get married. You know what they used to do to the Jews? They used to call them into a class. Under the table, they used to put a device of radiation. They wanted to see how much radiation a human body could withstand. And they used to tell them, oh, you guys are just coming for a test. For a test. They used to, drughi, some test they used to take. And they used to bombard their private parts with radiation. When these Jews left the death camps, when they were liberated, they found out they couldn't have kids. Now they came to the rabbis with a question, could we get married now? Do you know what kind of question that is, Rabbotai? You know what kind of question that is? You know what they used to do to the Jews over there? So this Dr. Mengel, he was the head of the department, Yamach Shemo.
You know, it was his nickname. I was talking to that quite.
What was his nickname?
Malach HaMavet.
Malach HaMavet they used to call him.
Wow.
Kids used to go over there.
The kids. He used to kill the kids right away. He used to see a child, straight to the death chambers.
He used to take out the eyes.
What kind of children he used to let alive? What kind of children? Twins. The Germans had a certain obsession with kids. Because they looked at it as a genetic purity.
Experiment.
They wanted to experiment with them. So this mother was holding her kid, and she said, I'm not going to let the kid out. So the Jew who works for the Nazis said to the mom, listen, yesterday there was a mother over here that was holding her child like you. When they got to this Dr. Mengel, you know what he used to do? This Malach HaMavet used to look at the person like this used to do. That means to the death chambers. This meant to the labor camps. He wouldn't even look at them. Death chambers, labor camps. When he saw the mother holding the baby, he was telling this mom, yesterday, he wanted to have a little fun. So he told a Nazi officer, it's a true story, I can send you guys the link even. The boy is telling this story by himself. He took the boy and he told the Nazi officer, tie one of his feet to one truck and tie another foot to another truck and tell the trucks to drive slowly. I want to see how much pressure could a human body take. Could you imagine the sorrow of the mother while looking as her mother was cut into, as her son was cut into 2 pieces? Could you imagine such a thing? And you know what Egypt was? 10 times worse. They used to use children as bricks. They used to take suckling children, infants from the mother's hands and throw them to the Nile River, to the crocodiles. What kind of galuyot Am Yisrael went through? And this Paro was a Rasha Merusha. He was a Rasha Merusha. And I want to tell you guys one thing. When we eat the matzah on Leil Pesach, this matzah, we are putting an arrow into all the satans for the rest of the year. But, back to our question, how come the Jews didn't do Teshuva? You think they didn't do Teshuva? The Erev Rav was there. But the Jews for 210 years see what Paro does to them. Do Teshuva! Do something! You know they found in the caves of Egypt? They found inscriptions in Old Hebrew how the Jews used to bear inside the walls praying to God. They used to pray in the name of Kel. They didn't know the name of Hashem. They used to say Kel, God, Elohim. How come God didn't listen to their Teshuvah? They did Teshuvah, by the way. The Jews did Teshuvah. God didn't listen to them. Satam Tfilatam. He closed the heavens. You know why God didn't listen to them? Teshuvah without Torah doesn't work. When did we get the Torah, Rabotai? After we left Egypt. You know why God didn't accept Adam's Teshuvah? God didn't give him the Torah yet. You know why God didn't accept Reuven's Teshuvah? Reuven didn't get the Torah. He accepted it from father to son, but he didn't accept the Torah in Har Sinai. You know why God didn't accept the Jews' Teshuvah in Egypt for 210 years? Because they didn't get the Torah yet.
It's not their fault though.
Not their fault or not is inconsequential right now.
Who did Teshuva was accepted?
Yehuda's Teshuvah is a different story. David HaMelech had to come out of that. And not only that, Yehuda went through the worst kind of suffering. He didn't do Teshuvah, he did suffering. What was that? He got embarrassed by his own daughter-in-law. It's a different story.
So Holocaust, Teshuva, European Jews.
Who knows how much longer the Holocaust was supposed to be?
But there was
Who knows?
Teshuva, right?
Who knows? Of course.
They had Torah and
Of course they did Teshuvah.
Yeah, but it's
They died on Kiddush Hashem.
They died in Kiddush Hashem. Rabotai, we can't know Hashem's cheshbonot. But I want to make a very fine point over here. Teshuvah without Torah doesn't work. And how did we get the Torah? Only by leaving Egypt. How do we celebrate leaving Egypt? By doing Pesach, Rabotai. All of your Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur depend on this night of Pesach. If the night of Pesach goes well, if you did your mitzvah, it's promised to you, you're going to have a good Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. God's going to accept your Teshuvah. But if you don't go through the night of Pesach correctly, your Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's going to be locked. It's going to be locked. Your Teshuvah is on condition you leave Egypt. If you leave Egypt, you could do Teshuvah. If you don't leave Egypt, you can't do Teshuvah. If you lose the war with the matzah and the chametz, you can't do Teshuvah. So Rabotai, we learned many interesting stuff today, and there's many more to say, much more to say. But we're gonna end here for tonight, and may Hashem bless us. May we truly accept upon ourselves Pesach Matzah Maror. May we defeat the Yetzer Hara. May we defeat the Chametz. And may Hashem send Mashiach Tzidkeinu this year, tonight. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.